Hello everyone, my name is Daniela Garcia and in this short video I am going to answer two questions about the second language acquisition process, and both answers are going to be based on chapter number 2 of the book Second Language Acquisition, written by Lockwood and Spot. So, the first question that I'm going to answer is how are first language and second language acquisition process different and similar? So first of all, I want to say that since people who are learning a second language already know another one, they generally assume things that lead them to make mistakes when they are learning. And this happens because we tend to match both languages and we tend to think that they work the same. Also, I want to say that between ages, there are cognitive differences among those people who are learning a second language. And also, we have to be aware that there are differences in the attitudes and cultures of the people who are learning a second language. And this totally interferes or interacts with the learning process directly. So, the first difference that I want to share with you is that people who learn another language as their first language spend a lot of time in contact with this language, obviously because all the people in their context uses this language. While on the other hand, people who are learning a second language, well, they spend less time exposed to the language they are learning because usually this process happens in a classroom. This process is different between the people who travel and learn the second language on a trip or on an exchange. Another difference that I want to share with you is that people who are learning a first language learn it as the people use it in the context that they live. And this is different with the second language learners because usually in a classroom context, people tend to learn the language in a formal way. And this is important because this impacts the way we communicate and this impacts the words that we use while we share with others. Now, I want to share a similarity, and is that in both cases, errors that don't interfere with the meaning of the words that people want to communicate are usually accepted because the interlocutor usually understand what is communicated. So this usually happens in an informal space and on a formal space. Well, the first thing that I want to share with you is that knowledge about grammar is built in predictable sequences. So, for example, the present progressive or the past simple are paired sequentially. In the case of the second language learners in this process, the increase in the errors may be an indication that people are making a good progress. And finally, in both cases, English is not learned by imitation, and this is really important. We have to be aware of this because this is a process that is carried out through internal cognitive processes that interact with language and communication. Well, now I am going to recount the stages of acquisition of negation in English in a second language learning process. So first of all, I want to say that this is a process that has 4 stages, and I also want to say that in this process, the first language of the second language learner interacts because we tend to pair things and we tend to mix things in this process. So I want to start with the first stage, and in this stage the negative element is put before the verb. So people tend to make up sentences like "not my friend." And it is important to recall that people whose first language is Italian or Spanish usually use this way to build up sentences because this is the way that we build sentences in our first language. So, for example, in Spanish we say no me gusta, and sometimes we tend, in this stage, we tend to think that we can say not like. Now, I'm going to explain the second stage. And in this stage, people turn to alternate not and with don't. So, for example, people say, I don't can sing. The third stage in this process is when learners start putting the negative after auxiliary verbs like are, is, and can. And also, we have to say that in this stage, the use of don't is not integrated yet in the vocabulary. So, for example, people tend to say he was no happy. And finally, on our fourth stage, people is tend to mix time with the person and the number while building up the sentence with the negation. And well, this is the process of the stages of acquisition of negation, and I hope that it is clear. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you have any questions. So bye, and see you today in class.